Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Prospero.ai stock market live streams. It's been a minute for us. So George has been traveling, so we got one stream in last week and now one stream in this week, but we are ready to go, get into all of the stories. Obviously, the market has made a move higher recently, so we have to get into that. We are challenging the all-time highs now. Like up the video if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter. Regardless, we have a lot of great topics to get into. But let's update right at the beginning here, everyone, on the Prospero net option sentiment, which is something I want to ask about George for the SPY and QQQ right when he gets in here. Because, I mean, right now the SPY is at 0 and the QQQ is at 58. So quite a divergence. It's looking a little bit more bullish for tech, I would imagine. But what are we to make of quite the difference in SPY and QQQ levels at this point? That is by far the largest difference I have ever seen. So we have to be getting into that right now, right early, and then asking George if the all-time high is going to act as a ceiling, or if we can bust through these levels and getting up to SPY 7,000. I'm seeing some people talk about now, which would be quite the move by the end of the year. Then we'll talk about Tesla, which is now officially in their full self-driving era. They launched this past weekend, but with some negative data about their European sales coming out today, Tesla stock became a little bit of a sell the news event. Let's see where Tesla is currently at right now. So Tesla shares are down 4.25% at this very moment, filling the gap actually between 2 days ago. So Monday, when they popped higher because of the FSD. So that has now been reversed. So where does Tesla go from here? Now that FSD is officially launched in Texas, what do you think about SMR? Thank you for your question, Noam. So we'll wait for George to get in here, but let's just look at SMR and the Prospero signals for right now before George does. Alrighty, it's got a 90 growth, 79 upside, and 76 net options sentiment. High dark pool reading at 87, high short pressure at 76. Looks like a stock that's going to continue to see volatility. I know SMR and Oklo have had very big moves recently. A lot of hype in those names. It was up a lot yesterday. Let's see what it's doing today. It's down actually now. Interesting what's happening today. A lot of stocks are in the red, although I guess we did kind of fade a lot of the green that we had at open today. So we are kind of trending lower here. The Russell and the Dow are in the red. The SPY and QQQ are in the green still. But a lot of names are actually kind of in the red. A lot of the big cap, mega cap tech isn't in the green, but a lot of the mid cap, small cap, kind of seeing some reversals today. So a lot to talk about when George is here. We're also going to discuss Lululemon on the stream today because I found it a little bit shocking that the stock is down quite a bit actually if you look even at the past 5 years of the chart. So Lululemon and Nike not having any love in the public markets in recent years. Is that going to change soon? What about these businesses has caused them to drop? And is it about to turn around? Then we'll get into the HIMS and Novo Nordisk kind of end of the partnership there that actually sent both companies lower, and why the partnership was terminated and what it means for HIMS and Novo going forward. HIMS was down 30% when this was announced, but I believe they are back. Oh no, they're actually in the red now too today. So they were trying to get a rebound. They were up as much as 7% this morning, but all the way back down in the red they have gone. And still a lot of time left today, 4 more hours to go. So a lot more can change before now and the close. Then we're going to get into Coinbase, Circle, crypto. A lot of news in the crypto markets recently. Circle made a massive move after their IPO, getting all the way close to approaching 300, which is almost a 10x from their IPO price. So insane moves. At one point, I think they were close to like 70% the market cap of Coinbase. So just absolutely insane moves happening recently. We've covered the CoreWeave IPO. Seems like IPOs are really moving these days. But I want to ask George today about, if Circle becomes more part of the financial system and stable coins, What does it mean for Visa and MasterCard, which we haven't really talked about before? Is it kind of a black swan for those companies, and have they maybe peaked in their dominance of the financial system? Then we've been covering these AI disputes of copyright claims. We talked about Disney on the last stream about a week ago. We actually just posted a short about it today. I'm still editing the shorts from those streams, but we have another update, this time a different company. So Anthropic actually got a good ruling in an AI copyright case for them. So which way will this end? We don't know yet, but it looks like so far a sign of good things to come for AI companies that have been hit more and more with these copyright claims, with training on written models, and then Disney was talking about the content of their franchises like Star Wars. Then I'm going to get into FedEx, UPS, transportation logistics companies. I feel like a lot of investors think of these companies as more boring, more stable stocks, but with AI, automation, and all the tech that's coming into existence in the near future, can these companies boost their margins, boost their growth, and look like good investments? Or, will companies like Amazon, Tesla, and a lot of these mega caps kind of take over those businesses, and it will be bearish to innovation for them? So how is innovation going to affect those companies? Then we have two more topics to get through today. Drone maker AeroVironment popped up. Let's see if they're actually in the green still, because a lot of stuff has been selling off here now. Ticker is AVAV. Oh, not them though. They're still up 21% here today. Now up almost 50% year to date. They popped after they had good earnings, and they're a very interesting company, I feel like, because George has talked so bullishly about companies like Palantir recently that kind of had that combination of growth, innovation, and defense. And this company, being a drone maker, relying on defense spending, seems to kind of maybe fit that mold. I looked at them in Prospero, good signals. So after this big move, should you be an investor here, or maybe wait for a pullback to get in, or just how do you feel about this company going forward? And I also just saw that I think NATO upped the amount that all the countries in NATO are going to be spending on defense, as much as 5%, or a target of 5% going forward. So looks like it should be good for companies like Palantir and those that are require defense spending like AVAV. Let's actually look at Palantir if they're up today, despite a lot of the stuff going in the red now. Palantir is also red. So a lot of the bullishness that was in the air at the beginning of the day today does not seem to be there right now. We'll see what happens before the close. But then I have one more story to cover here. SPACs. They're making a comeback, whatever you call them. The special purpose acquisition companies. A few have come to the market. A popular crypto person, you guys may know who he is, Anthony Pompliano, just launched a SPAC. And the last time these were really, really popular was when the market was at its frothiest before the 2022 pullback, so like 2021. I wonder if this is a sign of market reaching its final days of bullishness to George, or how he feels about it, if he feels any way about it. A lot of lower quality stocks seem to be running. So I just kind of want to ask George, where does he feel like we're at in this phase of the bull market? I actually just got a text from George. He said he's having camera issues, trying to solve them now. So we'll see if our boy can get in here rather quickly. We are 9 minutes in now. Already we've had 190 viewers. So thank you, everybody. Stay with me here. I'm sure we'll get it sorted out soon enough. Noam is asking about AAOI. Looks good in your opinion. Let's look at the Prospero signals for AAOI. I actually don't see that company in Prospero right now. So we'll have to try to get that one added in the near future. What is AAOI? I've never heard of it. Applied Optoelectronics. Interesting company. Small company, $1.39 billion market cap. We'll have to put this one on a watch list and see, track it going forward. Sorry, Noam, it's not available in Prospero currently. But that's gonna be it for our topics today. If it's your first stream you're tuning into, feel free, like Gnome is doing in the chat, whether you're watching on Twitter or YouTube, to ask us questions about specific stocks, macro, business, AI, whatever you're wondering about. We'll be happy to answer them. George is really the person who gives his opinions on here. I'm kind of just bringing the topics and lobbing them up to him, let him talk more in depth about it. He's the real expert, so we'll just wait for him to get in here. Gnome said it's okay. So sorry, Gnome. But Gnome, do you have Prospero? Because you can look up all these stocks in Prospero and find them if they're in there or not. It's a great app to have if you're trying to become a great investor and see the signals on a daily basis. Let me pull up our stream on YouTube and help us out and give us a like myself. We have 11 awesome people watching on YouTube. Thank you. We just hit 5 likes. Let's see if we could hit double-digit likes throughout the stream today. I think people we're going live at a weird time and also a weird schedule this week. So for everybody who's new, we usually go live Mondays at 11 a.m., Wednesdays at 3 p.m. This week's a little different. Last week was also. I'm not sure if we'll be back to the normal schedule next week, but we'll find out soon enough. But so if you want to keep us on your schedule in the future. What about the new IPO sale? Yes, I have Prospero. So sometimes IPOs aren't in Prospero for a little bit. But this one is actually. Sale IPO. Let's see. Upside and downside don't look too great. 31 upside with a 40 downside. So the long term is looking a little bit rough for sale, at least in Prospero's perspective. 72 net option sentiment isn't necessarily bad, but if I had to get into the brain of George, I would think he would say there's a lot of better options out there. There's a lot of stocks, net option sentiments in the 80s and 90s, and upside and downside looking a lot better than sales. So if you go into the Prospero app and you look at the first screen that you pop into, it's the R picks all the way at the left side of the bottom of the screen. It pops up our short-term bull list. So you can see the top 10 companies in the Prospero app in our current signals. Hey, George, welcome to the stream today.
Sorry, I had a little bit of problems.
Camera's looking great. Oh, do we have audio though?
Do you not hear me?
Yes, I hear you now. Oh, it was my computer that was low.
Great.
All right. Wow,
yes,
George.
Do you like this? Do you like my living room here?
It looks beautiful. I like the shot we got. Welcome to the stream. We've already had Gnome asking a bunch of great questions and a lot of people tuning in, ready to get into the topics for the day. And we're having an interesting market here. First of all, good to be chatting with you, George, again. It's been a minute, so I'm excited for our stream today. But we started off with a lot of bullishness. It felt like in the air today, but the indices have kind of slowly drifted lower. It seems like a lot of stocks are actually red today now, except for like the mega cap tech, which is still holding us just barely green for QQQ. And we're also seeing this really, really big divergence in SPY and QQQ net option sentiment, the largest I've ever seen at 59 and 0. So how are you feeling about the market for everybody that's follows you on a weekly basis? George is gone. For your thoughts.
No, I was just putting something in. No, I was noticing that too. It is very, very weird. That big of a divergence. And we actually took on some more risk yesterday, even though SPY was lower. And it worked out pretty well for us. We're having a pretty good day getting into AMD. CoreWeave looks like it's finally more, going the way that we want it to. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting market. I think it's definitely time to play the upside on some of this stuff, but also, time to have your hedges ready.
Well, I wasn't sure whether to congratulate you or not, but we got our comment from Bob on your engagement, George. So it looks like I can do that. And thank you, Bob. Congratulations, George. George got engaged in the past week or so. So congrats, George.
Yeah, I put it in my newsletter. Hopefully everybody can forgive me. My picks the last week haven't been the most involved, haven't been my best performance. But yeah, hopefully people can understand. Sometimes there are, life events, and I think that's, we try to be as realistic as possible about our lessons on these things. And it's just like, yes, I'm a human too. Thanks, Bob. It was nice to get a little bit of time off, spending time in Paris with my new fiance last week. Now still in Europe a little bit, but working back to it, making sure I can get those picks out to all of you.
So before I move on from the more macro SPY and QQQ, just how are you interpreting the 57 in net options we're seeing for QQQ and 0 for SPY? Are you bullish on tech and bearish on the rest, or are you kind of just confused by this, like, and unsure of how to feel about the overall markets?
My interpretation is that they've got to play this momentum, these all-time highs, um, in what makes sense, right? If the market continues in this direction, it stands to reason that these high growth, these tech stocks, are going to do very well. So they're making sure they capture that upside while also, hedging properly. And I think that's why you saw, SPY, I think it was at like 5 yesterday, it's down to 0. With these all-time highs, I think with the market showing like a little bit more weakness today, that's what we're getting. But these stocks that are running, Coinbase, AMD is a stock we got into yesterday. They're not backing off, and one of the reasons we really Palantir is another one that continues to be high in our screeners. And one of the reasons that they're not, that we're staying in stocks like that is we're still looking for stocks that have a good upside story, right? We like AMD because like there's starting to be some good contracts. A lot of people are saying, maybe the distance between it and Nvidia isn't as much as some people think, and there's a gap to close. So we like that story. We think that's the right stock to play in the narrative that the market keeps going up versus some other stocks that are already at or near their all-time highs that can get punished more. And then Palantir is a stock that we continue to stay in. And the big reason for that is we think if tensions rise, we've said this before, if tensions rise again in the Middle East, Palantir is a high growth stock that seems to be protected well because they're in the intelligence game, they're in the military game. So I think a lot of people, it doesn't get hit as hard as some other riskier tech stocks. So I think that story is how we're doing it, right? Overall, we're making sure that we still capture the upside of this market, but there's some protection to the downside, whether it be hedging with other stocks as we do, but also, we're in, kind of higher risk, higher growth stocks that we think have a higher floor than some others.
Well, since you brought up Palantir, I'll bring up this stock, which I was curious on your opinion of, because I feel like it may have some of the similar aspects that make you bullish on Palantir. The company is called AeroVironment. It's a drone maker, and it was up 20% today as they beat on revenue and earnings. And ticker AVAV, if anybody hasn't heard of them. They're in Prospero. It looks like they have pretty good signals for a small cap company. I think, let me check actually. I think their market
Yeah, how
cap was
was
like,
that option sentiment going into earnings?
it was pretty good. It was in like the 80s leading into their earnings. So it's
Yeah, I
still
think
up
that
23%
yeah,
today. So it's one of the stocks that's kind of like holding the gains it had. Market cap of 10.8 billion now. But drone defense tech play, innovation play. What are your thoughts on AVAV? Maybe the next Palantir. And I say that because we have a good video about Big Bear AI. So I have to set it up that way. But what do you think?
yeah. I mean, Big Bear I was doing pretty well too, but no, I mean, I think what that's the perfect kind of stock that we're talking about. A stock that has growth potential that can run. I think we've added it before this year because it's definitely looked really solid in our signals for a bit. But a stock that also has that downside protection in terms of like, okay, this is a stock that if tensions rise again, where a lot of tech stocks might get hit, this one could do well because of that perception and the good earnings, right? So I think that you always, and we always preach this, balance in your portfolio, right? So if you want to play tech right now, even at all-time highs, that's risky. But if you want to balance out that tech portfolio by, adding stocks like Palantir or AVAV. If you want like a smaller cap option, that is a way you can keep your upside and manage your risk.
I also saw today that I think NATO agreed to have a target of 5% for defense spending now. And I believe it was at 2%, but this is like a long term target. But that should give the companies that are in defense like a very stable growth projectability, right? Because like almost regardless of what happens with the economy, as long as those countries are upping their spend, it's going to create stable growth, I would assume.
Yeah, and wasn't it NATO that gave? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was NATO that gave the contract to Palantir, right? So that's especially good news for Palantir.
Yes, very much so. So the stock that is now in its full self-driving era, Tesla, it has begun this past weekend. Although I did see, several kind of last-ditch efforts. It seemed like to me of like articles trying to prevent it from happening. This full self-driving launch for Tesla, but they did it, and the stock rose on Monday. But we're seeing a drop today after some more negative data came out for their European sales, down 27.9% year over year in May. Does it even matter, George? Is this going to affect the stock long term, or is it all about the robo taxi now?
Wasn't there like I was just on a space where I think someone said yesterday too, like a self-driving. Let's Google that. Close call with UPS truck. Yeah. Okay. First recorded Tesla robotaxi intervention. UPS truck encounter. Okay. There's been smooth performance in Austin. A robotaxi is preparing to pull over. It's on the right side of the road with the turn signal active. Ahead, UPS stop comes to a stop. As the Model Y begins turning into the spot, the UPS truck, seemingly without signaling, starts to reverse. Um, oh, I mean, it looks like it happened successfully, but maybe it was just a close call. But yeah, I mean, this is what we always talk about with Tesla, and this is what makes it so confusing, right? Because on the one hand, you have, the stock kind of ignoring bad sales, right? And then just going on this AI hype. And then, they have, for all intents and purposes, what seems to be a good release of full self-driving. And then all of a sudden sales matter today. Like, I think that's what makes, this market and this stock, a very tough one to follow because it's so news driven. And then you can't get a beat on it, right? Because you're just like, okay, like it doesn't look like sales matter, but today they do. Tomorrow will be interesting, right? If it gets back to a recovery, that just might be okay, an initial reaction to the news kind of thing.
And when you look at the chart of Tesla, it's like kind of surprising to see that. I mean, it feels like it's moved all over the place in the past like 4 years, but it's really been kind of range bound ever since it broke out initially in 2020, and it made its like all-time high at that point at 293 in January 8th of 2021. I mean, we're within 10% of that, and it's like since then it's been up, 20, 30%, down 20, 30%. So what is going to drive Tesla to all-time highs from here? I'd assume successful FSD and just like massive growth and scale in the coming years. Can anything else do it at this point, or is it all hinging on this being
Yeah, it had
successful
a
and
little
like quickly
run.
growing?
You're right. In February 2025, it had a little run up to 360, right? And then it had another little run in May up to 356. And then same thing, 348. And now it's so yeah, that like 360-ish level seems to be tough for it to get in. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's gonna need the full self-driving catalyst. But yeah, I think if it doesn't get that, I mean, I think that's what everybody's playing, and I think they're going to play it aggressively. Like any revenue from that is going to be treated in a very friendly way. Any expansion of the pilot is going to be treated in a very friendly way. All those could be huge bull flags for it. But I think also anything they do on the Optimus is going to be viewed very positively as well. I think that absolutely, you have that like hard revenue numbers that they're going to look for. But then also like any data in terms of the Optimus coming closer to the market, where it's going to be rolled out, any orders, that could be a really good trigger too.
Do you have any kind of expectations for Optimus timeline? Like, I would think that's got to be like a 5 to 10 year type of thing from now. Is that, you think that's about right, or maybe
I mean, they
longer,
could
shorter?
run tests or get or like I don't think it's by any means that long of a timeline um to run tests. Um but let's I kind of want to ask, is this I'll ask ChatGPT.
Well, while you're typing,
Uh,
I'll throw this question at you. What happens to like the gig economy when Teslas can drive themselves and there's an Optimus that can like even deliver food or go grocery shopping or do all of these kind of tasks? Like, that's, I feel like gig economy is a large portion of like the up and coming people today, and if that goes away, I don't know. Seems a bit concerning.
all right. We're going to ask, how do you spell? Well, actually ChatGPT is very good at yeah, he's aiming to build 5,000 units internally in 2025 with parts for up to 10,000 to 12 by year end. Commercial release individually likely targeted for 2026 based on Musk's targets. Like, I don't think that's going to be, I don't think that's going to necessarily be in people's homes. I think it might be like very well targeted applications like B2B. But yeah, not the 10 years you thought, Steven.
Well, we'll see if Elon can deliver. He has so far on all of this stuff, even if
But
it takes
yeah, I'll
slightly
say
longer.
my personal prediction is that they actually land and start getting used in 2027. Like, there might be tests, but like they might be very controlled tests. I think when they're like kind of like out in the wild, kind of doing more, I'd say 2027. But like I said, a good announcement about an order or him just giving a more solid date, um, all of that could be very bullish.
Any thoughts on the question I posed about like the gig economy? Like, I feel like once these
Um,
robots are alive, that's kind of the official real, like, where people are going to feel the AI effects and like what it's kind of the future, is the present at
well,
that point.
even without um even without like the um Optimus, right? You could have like a self-driving Tesla like pull up, unlock itself. Someone could like come out from the restaurant, bring up the delivery, right? You could go grab it. I mean, that's a little harder in New York because I actually really appreciate my delivery person like bringing it up to my apartment. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think the gig economy is, I mean, all of these, whether it's like Waymo or, Tesla or any of them, all of them are definitely looking at coming for the gig economy. So yeah, I'd be very concerned about where those jobs are going to go, but there's a lot of jobs that are at risk.
So I wanted to bring up Lululemon, switching topics here now, because I noticed the stock has been pretty underperforming for a while. So similar to Nike, which makes sense since the companies are so similar, but now down almost 40% year to date for Lululemon and down just under 23% over the past 5 years. So what is it about Lululemon and Nike that have made these stocks lag the market so heavily over the past half a decade? And which one are you feeling better about, if either, going forward from here, Lulu or Nike?
Well, I mean, I've got some info. Um, my fiance is here next to me, and she just made a noise about it. And I know at one point she was talking about getting some Chinese pirated Lululemon clothes. So that might be one of the problems that they're dealing with. Um, but yeah, she didn't get it because I said that's I didn't like that morally. Uh, I mean, look at what's happening with the stock price, and it's just the kind of thing. The reason I don't like that is if you like the clothing and you want them to keep designing it, right? It's kind of like you're not supporting that part of the business if you get like pirated clothes. But I like I like Nike better than Lululemon just because it's got an older, stronger brand, and I think they both have price point problems. I think Nike shoes got like way. I mean, I think shoes got way too expensive, and they are also dependent on like sweatshop labor, and that's going to get harder to do. And the thing about Lululemon that I mean, this became like a big headline too, where they talked about how they don't Um, how they tell their people like not to stop shoplifters because of like the insurance or whatever involved in that. So yeah, I think that when you look at that, you're just like, well, maybe it is a problem for you. Maybe shoplifting is a problem for you if your stock is down that much. So yeah, I don't love either as businesses, but I think Lululemon is in bigger trouble.
So it sounds like it's a whole host of issues, but the tariff thing that was affecting all of these retail companies, I think a lot of them, it was the big thing was Vietnam and China. That July 9th date is like 2 weeks away now, and there hasn't been much update. It's kind of being swept under the rug. Obviously, there's global tensions and all this stuff that's hitting the headlines, but how focused are you on the tariffs at this point? Do you think the market has digested and whatever happens, it's going to like not move the markets as much, or is it going to be dramatic as we get close to that date?
I had almost forgotten about that, to be honest. We've had like the drama die down for a little bit. Um, I think since it's the EU, it's not as big of a deal as if it was. I mean, we have these little like China flare-ups that keep happening. Um, but yeah, since it's the EU, I'm not as worried about it. But I definitely will be well hedged like a week going into that date for sure. Um, just because you never know what's going to be said, you never know what posturing is going to happen, and the market responds. The market's been responding for a while. They're responding very strongly to what Donald Trump says. So we can expect that to, there's no reason not to expect that to continue. There's no reason to not expect posturing. I think it's something that, if it gets cleared up soon and they come to an agreement, that would help. But I don't necessarily expect that to happen. I think the EU might be dug in a little bit. And I think, we're at all time highs. I think that could be the thing that knocks us off of it.
Mm-hmm. So spinning to another stock, Hims, which seems to be, if not the most, one of the most popular social media names I see on Twitter all the time. They had a rough day when Novo Nordisk canceled their partnership. So Hims was allowed to sell and offer Wegovy on their platform for Novo, but they canceled that. And they said that Hims has been like illegally compounding, like a knockoff Wegovy, basically. It seemed like Novo entered this partnership with the intention of having him stop selling like the competitor that's the like non-brand name of Wegovy. And once they didn't do that, that made Novo mad and they backed out. But both stocks were down. Hims dropped over 30% on the day. How do you feel about it? How do you do you think this affects any of its long-term potential? I think people who are investors in Hims kind of are split on how much this will affect them in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we talk about all the time with these momentum stocks, right? We definitely talk about these events can really turn the table on them. Like Hims, especially, was a stock that like ran a lot, right? And that's like a lot of the times you're pricing in everything going, not only everything going right, but continued positive news, continue to ramp it up. So when you get a negative news story, it can really kill that momentum and send things the other way. So this is not surprising, and it's a danger when you get in on these momentum plays for sure.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about this too is like Hims is an innovator in an industry that I want to word this carefully, but kind of has a lockdown on how the innovation goes. So being that they're kind of disrupting the legacy people in this industry, do you think that's going to be a big headwind for them, or do you think every industry has their own things that you need to overcome, and Hims is going to be able to get past that, or do you think that's like a real roadblock for them?
Well, the conspiracy is maybe that Novo Nordisk entered into this partnership to due diligence, find out more about them and figure out like exactly what they were doing, how to attack their business. Novo Nordisk wouldn't be the first company that entered into a partnership for that reason. And obviously, when you look at Hims stock, it's getting hit a lot harder. So yeah, I mean, I think probably a lot of like traditional medical companies don't like what Hims are doing, but like I said, they're still an ascending company. It's going to be up to them to continue to innovate, to figure out how to compete. But there's no doubt the incumbents are going to come for them, make it as hard as possible. And yeah, in such a regulated industry, um, that is a much bigger problem than in an unregulated industry.
Well, spinning from regulated to more unregulated, I want to get up into crypto here. Just bring it back up because I feel like it's been a minute since we discussed it. And Bitcoin been range bound, but holding up very well despite everything that's going on. It's at 107,000 currently, so near the all-time highs. We had the Circle IPO go absolutely insane, almost 10xing at the peak, getting very close to hitting $300 per share. It's now back all the way down to 200, so just super volatile there. I saw a lot of people mentioning at one point Circle was like 70% of the market cap of Coinbase, but Coinbase gets like half of the revenue that Circle drives, so it was like it was confusing a lot of people. So obviously it seemed like Circle was overvalued, but do you think Coinbase could be undervalued where it's trading at today? And how are you feeling about crypto, Bitcoin and the whole industry right now?
Well, Coinbase looks very good right now in our signals. Um, it's at 100 net option sentiment. It's been there for a week. I just looked today. Upside is up from 84 to last week to 93. Downside is down from 42 to 30. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a stock that institutions seem to think can continue to run, Coinbase looks like it, and it looks like even with these, you know, excellent, excellent crypto run, people are looking at Coinbase and saying this has a lot more room to run. I mean, Coinbase has classically been one of our favorites. It started to weaken a little bit, but it's starting to look very, very strong again.
So
Oh, and I should add that Alliance Bernstein just put a $510 price target on it today. So that's hard to ignore.
$510, and it's currently at 350, so that would be quite the move. These IPOs recently, we've been discussing them, CoreWeave and Circle, just massive movers. How are they able to move so much when I mean, I know we've discussed this, but I'm just still curious, like when the valuations just seem so insane. It's like, who could be the buyers for Circle at 300 or CoreWeave like at 200? Like, how is there still demand? Is it just pure momentum? Like, that's it?
We're in a market right now that's very retail driven. And we're also in a market right now where institutions are buying into it being retail driven, right? So retail starts a run that institutions agree that can be sustained, and then they're buying, and then more retail buys, right? And it's kind of just like a combination of, that's why we've stayed in our short of CoreWeave. It looks like that might work out for us. Just because it definitely looks like, it can keep going to a certain point, but at a certain point, both institutions and retail have to be like, this is at a really great valuation. We made some great profits. It's time to take them. Or maybe there's just not enough buying power to keep driving it up. Whatever it is, we've definitely seen the short borrow rate come down on CoreWeave, which is what we were looking for. But yeah, the retail momentum in the market is crazy. It's nothing like I've ever seen. And because of that, it forces institutions to take that momentum a lot more seriously than I've seen them take it. So some, like, more than ever before, these retail driven momentum trades have real legs.
And also something I forgot to mention when I was asking about this, the thing that's making me even more confused about these moves is like, it would be one thing if it was like, a $1 billion company doubling, tripling, quadrupling, whatever. But like CoreWeave has an $80 billion market cap right now. And to sustain these levels, like a lot of money has to be like moving in and out of the stock on a daily basis, right? To have it like stay trading,
Yeah.
Up here.
Yeah. $80 billion market cap. Yet it's not supposed to be profitable until 2027. And its 2027 P is like 100, forward P is 104. It's crazy. It's crazy that these stocks are running to those levels.
Mm-hmm. I forgot to mention this in our crypto segment, but I saw people bringing up how Circle and, it seems like this new financial system is really starting to shoot into the world with the acceptance of crypto by the new administration. Are you worried about like Visa, MasterCard, any legacy systems, even like, Square or any people that were involved and had a good position in the financial system as it has been? Are you nervous about any of that being replaced or changed or position shifting? Or do you think they're all going to adapt and find their spot in the new thing that's being built?
I like Square just because I feel like they've become so adopted by small businesses. And I think that's a better moat than some of the other things have. And I mean, here's the thing. I'm worried about the profitability because things like stable coins, these transaction costs, like, they're basically through the blockchain are able to do free transactions. Like if you think about like international wires, if you think about, basically like the interest rates that can be charged if there's more competitive products, um, it's really going to drive down the price. So I'm more worried about the profitability of Visa or MasterCard or anything. I think ultimately they'll adopt the technology so they don't die, but that will eat into their profitability 1000%.
So we've been talking about these like AI copyright lawsuits happening recently. Most recently, Disney suing Midjourney. We got an update in a different case today. So this was, declared a major victory for artificial intelligence companies. A federal judge ruled that Anthropic did not violate authors' copyrights when it used their books to train its AI model Cloud. So it looks like a good sign for AI companies that have been hit with lawsuits recently. It doesn't really end the question that you were kind of talking about of like where it's going to be drawn. Like you gave the example of the Spotify and the artist kind of relationship, but got to be feeling better if you're an AI model trainer out there today after this ruling, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think ultimately on especially the more valuable um, content, I think there will ultimately be some kind of, small payment system worked out. Like, I don't think Disney's going to give up. Like, and it's kind of the thing, when you're trying to get a trademark or a patent or whatever. Um, Sometimes you're going to try different things, right? They'll try this lawsuit. They might try it somewhere else. They might try to get them for something different. This is by no means, over. And like there might also be, some traps laid, like some lobbying. You never know if new laws are passed, right? The incumbents don't always just lay over and die. And I just don't like I like whenever there's a new paradigm, like we did use that Spotify example, like the old content owners or the old system get something, right? Generally, it's a race to the bottom of these things. So it gets cheaper and cheaper um, for everything. I think that involves technology in terms of what's going to be paid. I think almost everything's going to be a race to the bottom. But even in that race to the bottom, you, the incumbents, the old guard, always get something. And if they don't, like I said, frequently lobbying efforts will make sure um, that they get something.
So, staying on the theme of the old guard, I wanted to ask you about the old guard in a different industry because FedEx was down a bit today after earnings that were decent, but they kind of had slightly lower than expected forecasts. So, I want to ask you about FedEx, UPS, any like logistics, shipping, or transportation company, maybe even railroads would fit into this, but just with the pace of innovation, how we were talking about the Tesla innovation, Optimus, AI. Do you think these companies are set up to harness that and kind of have better margins and maybe be more attractive businesses going forward? Or do they look like they're going to be replaced by the innovators that are coming behind their footsteps here? So, how are you feeling about like transportation logistic companies, FedEx, UPS, and others?
Um, I mean, I think Amazon is going to come for a lot of these places eventually, right? They have their drone thing. They have a lot of their own like infrastructure, things like that, like, their own trucks. Like I think increasingly that's a business that Amazon is going to, come for. Now, if we're talking about trains, right? That's a very interesting question because there's like a lot of stuff that gets shipped on trains and the yields that those things like they're shipping like chemicals in large quantities, and the amount that they can do, you kind of have to say, what's the substitute? Where is that? So I actually think, for something like a train to be replaced, I think you're almost talking about new technology, new infrastructure, right? I could see there being like another kind of ground transportation, maybe um, self-driving trucks, if they become more popular, maybe they can be on the road safer as larger. You could have like longer chains of them, because a robot knows how to drive that better than a human. So it's kind of like road trains. I don't know how safe they are, but like for example, on like long stretches, you could have like a road train that like a part of it like breaks off and starts to drive on its own. That's something that like with self-driving you get more, but like that's what I'm saying. I think we're talking about a new technology that we haven't seen yet that would have to replace trains, but it's certainly not off the menu.
You think any space technology could be involved in the transport of this stuff in the future if rockets become more and more cheaper and reusable? I saw ASTS stock has been going up parabolically pretty recently, up I think as high as 54, and it was like
Yeah,
$2 a year ago. Pretty insane.
yeah, I missed the boat on this latest run a bit. It is down a bit today. Yeah, but I thought it might go down. I think if we're talking about space, we're more talking about like international um, shipping, where it would be that. I don't think we're talking about competing with trains, but yeah, I just think whether it's like Amazon drones or whatever, I think the next, I think we're not looking at, other than maybe self-driving trucks that we might see a different version of. I don't think we're yet seeing the tech that is going to replace things.
So we are getting to the end of my prepared topics. I have one more today, but we've had 1,700 people in here. So thank you everybody for watching. If anybody has questions, feel free to comment them in our chats on Twitter or YouTube. We will be happy to answer. But I wanted to ask you about SPACs, special purpose acquisition companies. They seem to be coming back into the fold. I saw Anthony Pompliano, who people probably know, the guy very heavily involved in crypto and Bitcoin, launched one recently. There's been a few others. Last time SPACs were popular was like 2021, right as the market was hitting its fever pitch, and I don't know if it's a sign that we're like getting to the end of the bull market that has been since the 2022 drop, or if that's reaching a bit. Do you feel any type of way with SPACs becoming, this is the first time they're really coming back since then? And also, like, it seems like a lot of low quality stocks are really rallying a lot. So, are you feeling any type of way by the moves you're seeing in the market? Any, from your prior history of investing, anything you can like, any wisdom
Yeah,
you
I
can
mean,
impart?
I think the market is very risk on right now, and um, I think that SPACs are um, are a sign of that, right? I think when they were invoked, to your point, it was because very much people started to be risk on, um, and like extreme risk, right? I think basically what you see there is when people feel that other things like, the circles, the core weaves, even the palantirs, which I see a little more value to, when they feel like those get too crowded, when there's not like early enough juice in those trades anymore, that's when people start looking to SPACs and they start speculating on things, that aren't even, real companies yet. But I think that we're absolutely seeing that. But um, you got to be very careful with those, because those are also the first things that go, right? The first things that exit. And, we still have things lingering like that July 9th tariff date. And you could lose a lot of money on a SPAC based on just like one tweet. You could lose a lot of money on Circle based on one tweet. So that's why, to come full circle, that's why we like advocated for certain stocks that have those higher floors if trouble emerges.
Yeah, so it seems like maybe you would just suggest to like stay away from SPACs entirely if there's other, Palantir and other options that kind of have that upside but a little less risk. Because I was going to ask you, like, last time SPACs were popular, like plenty of them went from like 10 to 30, 40, 50, like in a matter of weeks. They can move crazy because they're like very low floats, but it seems like the risk is just maybe not worth the reward, or you just have to be very, very like on it at all times, tracking it to make sure you're not. How do you
For
feel?
me, the risk isn't worth the reward. But for
Hmm.
me, like the risk isn't worth the reward on something at these prices, like Circle, CoreWeave, like even Tesla, where it is right now, and the EPS. Like I said, the only reason that Palantir is an exception is I do feel like it's got that better floor because of its defense related activities in this market. But yeah, I don't like the risk reward profile for SPACs at all. Unless, as we always say, unless you feel you have some some inside ability, in your career about the SPAC and its long-term success, and you just want to hold it forever, and you think the SPAC will really become something legit, then it makes sense. But speculating on them, playing them for momentum, no, it's not for me, and I wouldn't recommend it.
So since we've been talking on the stream, the SPY has now officially trickled on down into the red, just barely. The QQQ is the only index still in the green, although it is ever so slightly. Are we doing the model portfolio today?
No, I
No.
like my filming setup is not a good portfolio setup.
So if you were going to do the model portfolio on the stream, and we're seeing this activity in the market with a 56 QQQ and 0 SPY still, how would you impart your wisdom on the viewers? How would you go about maneuvering today's market?
Honestly, I haven't really been doing it, but I should take a look and just see how long short we are. That's worth doing. I won't necessarily update it, but let's just see where we're at. Um, and I'll tell you how I would look at this problem. Okay, so we have 39 longs and 27 shorts. So that's about right. I might actually switch it to a little more shorts. I might switch it more to like 37.30 with with the all-time highs, like that kind of thing. But yeah, I basically like where it's at. I don't like that SPY net option sentiment at 0. Other things are bullish, so yeah, I'd be cautious.
And still
A
feeling
little
much
more cautious than that ratio now.
better on tech than other areas of the market.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't have any questions. I'm sure George.
Yeah, any questions? We might want more fodder for the video. You think we have enough videos to last us until next week, Steven?
Yeah, I can break it up pretty good now. Take little bits here, little bits there. Do my little Steven magic. I could get us for a
All
week.
right. So if there's any questions, give us more material. We will. If not, we'll pause for a minute. It's because I wouldn't mind. But yeah,
So do
this
you
was
want to?
good. I'm glad it worked. Apologies for the delay. For anybody waiting, there was my I actually had to restart my computer and make sure my camera worked, but we made it happen, and we got through all the topics.
Do you want to say where you are at all? It sounded like you left. I don't know if you care sharing or not, but from Paris to somewhere else, or
I'm in Spain. I'm in
oh my gosh,
Denny
I'm
in Spain.
jealous.
Yeah,
Lucky you.
it's beautiful. And then we're gonna go to Greece next.
Oh my gosh, you're all over, but you got to go to my homeland, Croatia. You're all around it.
Not this trip. Well, I mean, we got enough stops.
All right. All right. Well, you're not missing any weather, any like good weather here. It's so hot in our area back in the Northeast. It was like 103
Yeah,
degrees yesterday, so you picked a good
the
time to
old
leave.
people didn't even vote in New York, so I've heard.
Maybe so. I've been pretty stuck inside. It's so hot. Um, no
Yeah.
questions though for us, George.
And we just crossed 2,000 viewers. There we go. Like we stayed on for that.
How about that? So thank you everybody for tuning in today. We'll be back at some point next week, but until then, happy investing, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you, George. Get back to your lovely time in Spain, and we'll be talking very soon.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye. Thanks.